three people who are speaking here and waiting here to ask their questions. And then we have a contribution from Norway, from John Jones. John, if you will be ready. And finally, hopefully by then, Jeremy Corbyn will have arrived to provide an award for Julian, which Jeremy is going to share with us. So could I invite somebody to please pass the mic on? This one. Okay, thank you. Jeff. Could I request you all to maybe, even, of course, comments are welcome, but if you could keep the comments really brief and focus on the questions, because I think we have about 20 minutes more time. Could I also make a specific announcement to those watching on the live stream? Please stay on the live stream after the speakers have finished, because our kind streamers are going to take you around to see the art, because you cannot be in the room. So I see Jeremy has arrived, thank you. And we will take the questions, then we will have the contribution from John Jones, and then we will have Jeremy presenting the award. Thank you.
Okay, sorry to ask, do you agree type question, but I'll keep it short. It's to do with the language that we're using. Do you agree we should stop using the language of alienation that belongs to the enemy? Because Chelsea Manning just did what any human being is supposed to do. When you become aware of a crime being committed, you are supposed to tell everybody. And Julian Assange did what any normal publisher should do, tell everybody. But we use the term whistleblower, which is a minority term and a slanted term. The only thing abnormal about any of this is the horrendous intimidation that stops people performing a normal, absolutely normal public duty. And second, we should also stop using the term leaks, because it suggests that a vessel needs repairing, whereas any vessel that contains and hides the stinking substance of crime should be smashed.
Good evening. I've got a quick question for Jonathan. Recently I met some young journalists and very ambitious, beautiful kids. And I said to them, if you join a major organisation and it starts doing the things that it's done to Julian, what would you do? What advice would you give them in that situation?
Thank you. And the final question from the gentleman around.
Well, I'd just like to congratulate you on this meeting. It's the most amazing meeting I've ever been to, with three of the most cogent and compelling speeches I've ever heard. And I've wondered all my life, I've always suspected there was a massive conspiracy against democracy and the people. And I always wondered whether I faced the sort of question that people faced in the 20s and 30s in Italy especially, and in Germany, Spain, and across Europe. And I think we're now facing that sort of question. I think you're incredibly brave, along with Julian Assange and the other people who support him, in putting your heads above the parapet. But my question really would be, where's the next generation? Did you look around? I mean, with all due respect, I don't see anybody under 50 or 40 here. I mean, all the people. Oh, I'm very sorry, there's one. All right. Well, with one exception, where are they? It's going to be their world that they're going to live in, and God help them if we lose this battle. Thank you.
I think there were a few who responded to your query, but I will now request the speakers to both respond to the three queries that were raised and also make their concluding comments.
Well, let me address the question that was addressed to me. What advice would I give to young journalists who are starting out and want to achieve the kind of transparent society that WikiLeaks was and is still trying to achieve for us. The issue here isn't really what advice we can give to young journalists, it's what kind of support are we going to give, because the journalists are operating in a society which can choose, can want to be a transparent society or not to be one. There are lots of platforms now for young journalists, more than when I was a young journalist, you worked your way up the ladder. You started on a local provincial newspaper, you got your exams done, and then you hoped you could get your break in London, and the whole thing was controlled, you were selected. Some of you may have read Chomsky and Edmund Herman's book, Manufacturing Consent. There was a filtering system, and each step of the way you had to convince somebody that you deserved to stay there or to get promoted. And if you weren't a team player, if you didn't abide by the rules, if you didn't fit in, you weren't going to survive there for very long. And if you couldn't sustain a position in a newspaper, you were doomed as a journalist. You could maybe publish your own little newsletter and put it out somewhere and hope a few people would read it. We're in a totally different world now, where you can create your own readerships. We have platforms like Substack, where you can send out to potentially tens or hundreds of thousands of readers. We have social media, where you can develop your own followings. And we have a world where people can share information almost instantly. So there's the platforms, and obviously Julian Assange and WikiLeaks were at the very forefront of developing those platforms to make our societies much more transparent. The problem here is where is the support for those kinds of ventures? Where's the support for Julian Assange? Where's the support for WikiLeaks? If we allow our society to become, to wield secret power, to keep power veiled from us, then young journalists won't have that kind of support. This is why it's so important that we stand up and make a noise about what's going on to Julian, because if we don't, other journalists will get the signal that they're in danger. Should they try and follow his path? Should they try and echo what he's tried to do? It will be too dangerous. So the responsibility isn't on those journalists, really. It's on us as a society to start to prioritise greater transparency, to uphold the kind of journalism, support the kind of journalism that is prepared to take the risk. And when people get isolated, when they're attacked, with cases like Julian and Craig here, when they come up against the law, that we make a noise about it, we shout, we scream. And journalists also need to be doing that, as I said in my talk. So we can't have a transparent society. We can't expect journalists to break ranks and say things against power if there isn't wide support for that to happen. If people are just going to keep their heads down, keep quiet, then no journalist is going to do it. So the message isn't really for the journalists, it's for us. We've got to support that kind of journalism. We've got to rally behind people when they're being victimised and persecuted, and show that we care and that it's important to us. So it's a lesson for all of us to start making a noise, as much noise as we can. I think that's the lesson.
Yes, I definitely agree. There is hope, and I would like also to say to journalists, fight the fight, because it's worth. I mean, I had to leave my newspaper, and I had to leave the major newspaper, La Repubblica, the Italian daily La Repubblica, and I had very little hope of finding another job as a journalist, but I did. And I saw my income collapsing, which is not a good thing, but I would do it again to do my job. Absolutely would do it again. And compared to what Julian has suffered, my troubles are really nothing, really nothing. And in fact, in my book, I didn't even address this problem. First of all, because I don't want to be at the center of the troubles, considering what he has experienced. Because because I think, as I said, compared to what Julian Assange has experienced, I have experienced nothing. I have experienced intimidation, some intimidation, yes, but not death threat, for example. And I had been advised back in 2011, after the big revelation on the cables, Afghan warlogs, Iraq warlogs, cables, Guantanamo documents. Well, why you risk your reputation for them? You got your scoops from them, drop them, because it will close many doors to you. And it was true. It did close many doors professionally, but absolutely was worth. So to a young journalist, I would say, do it because it is definitely worth, absolutely. And I just want to reply to the question on the young people. Yes, I noticed there are many, we need the young people. I think many of people have seen the darkness and they see the dark days coming again with the return of authoritarianism, with the destruction of free press. So they are the first to be alarmed. But I noticed that when I explain to the young people what this case is about, they immediately understand what is at stake. So I'm not pessimistic, I would say.
Thank you, Stefania.